Hello, and it's art project time. Working on paddle bows, and it's one of those cool days at the end of summer when autumn is coming, fall is coming, and you can just sense it. It's bow time. You can feel the power in the air, the clash of summer going into fall. It's a beautiful time to be working on bows. And so I have these. There's a question. Hello, Phil. What kind of paints do I use? Well, let me just kind of go through it. Since I have 3 bows and painting takes steady nerves, no way could I be one of these people to do like, what do you call that, detail the line work on cars and stuff like that. But I do okay, so I'm going to do the 3 bows, somewhat different colors and patterns, but each step the same. And so I get practice for each step because it's been some time since I've done this, a matter of months. And getting the confidence, to do line work and draw geometric patterns, it just isn't something that you can go a long time and then suddenly get right back into it. So I start off slow. And by slow, I mean, I'm going to grab 2 of these bad boys. So the first step is the die work, and I use a Master Arrow die that I get at Pine Hollow Longbows to do the major panels. And what's nice is with Helmsman spar urethane, it's not going to cause this die to run. If you used Ultimate Floor Finish by Minwax and you hit it on here, a die, it's going to run, it's going to mess it up. But for some reason, Helmsman spar urethane doesn't work. Well, I should have them. I'm not prepared for this, but I had a break in traffic. It was a busy day today. I take a section of paper towel. Let's just simulate, pretend this is like a die, and I use like latex gloves so I don't dye my fingers. The bottle of dye, and I always set my dye in a coffee mug when I'm not using it so it doesn't tip over. It makes one heck of a mess. Section of paper towel that's folded up. Do one of these donkey things, put that in the coffee mug, and then to the lines, I just rub it on there using the folded paper towel for a brush. And then you can flip it over and work it to that edge. After it's done, sometimes, depending on the die, you have to do several coats to even it out. After it's done, take a paper towel and just wipe it over and it evens it out a little bit. However, you do get some fluctuations in the coverage, which is good. It's a natural material, this deer rawhide, so it's not just like it's painted on. Dye has its own character. And so I've got my colored bands on. The next easy step as you build confidence is doing the lines between the bands. Do not, under any circumstances, cheap out when you get brushes. These are high quality brushes. You want to have high quality brushes, not just go to the dollar store and shop for price. You spend $12 for a brush, $20, it's worth it because they will last longer and they will hold edges better. And so it's just a matter of, and I'll physically like rock the bow when I do it to get that straight line. So I got straight line, straight line, straight line, straight line, and then you notice on photos of my bows I've got dots on here. I actually use the end of a paintbrush, or I'll take a bamboo skewer and round it, and then dipping it in the right consistency, your paint, and I'll talk about paint that's has a little bit of water added to get the right consistency. Then it's just a matter of, and I do center, boink, on the edge, center between those two, and then center, 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 center. And when you do the center approach, training your eye to find the middle, boink, edge, edge, center again, or 2 between there, working it is a good pattern. Splitting it, you're able to do those dots evenly. It's all a matter of approach. Now sometimes I'll edge the entire bow and then do the dots, but I believe that's a little too much, so I don't do it. It's one of those things where, like, on Tuesday, that was the greatest thing that I ever did, is making like the lines and tons of dots on here. and then the next day it's like, wow, I don't like that anymore. So sometimes less is more. And then I've gotten the die pattern, I've got my lines. You notice I don't have a line here. It doesn't matter because the handle will go right up to it, and then I'll do triangles in there, so I don't need to do a line here. Then it's on to doing the diamond patterns, and I actually have a bunch of diamonds I cut out of cardstock that I can line up and then trace with pencil. Now here's how I do that, is I'll do the outline. Say that one, 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 to get a pattern going, and then I can flip it and then do the other side. So then I have the outline of the diamonds, and I always, it's John style, have a dark outline, usually in black, and then I don't need to pencil in the inner diamond. That's just, you know, freehand, maintaining an even boundary of rawhide between the outlined diamond and the inner colored diamond. Not rocket science. Not rocket science. Let me put these back. As far as the type of paint, made from wood that I bought at the big box store. You know, I'm not gonna try to, you know, sell you a whole line on this. Those are board bows. They're covered with rawhide, deer rawhide, and so I do not have any qualms keeping up with things. Titebond, I use Titebond, and so I'm not stressing out grinding pigments and making my own natural paint. If it was that style of bow that was made using all natural materials, more of a reproduction instead of like a translation or my take on things. If it was a purely reproduction style bow, then go with the ground paint pigment. Maintain a uniformity of natural materials throughout. On these, and I'm sure if the people 150, 200 years ago had this style of paint, they would have used it. Reminds me of a story. There's a guy that was traveling in the bush with a Kalahari bushman, and the guy worked so hard to build a fire, and it didn't work, so the Kalahari bushman brought out a Zippo, and he's like, technology. So I go with this, and let's see here. There's many brands, but they are acrylic paints, acrylic latex. They dry fast, and they're very compatible with Helmsman Spar Urethane and Ultimate Floor Finish if you're not using dyes. Because the Ultimate Floor Finish is a great finish, waterproof for a sinew and rawhide back bows. And they come in a wild variety of colors. Folk Art, Ceramcoat is a brand, but you can find these are mixed brands, but they're all acrylic latex, acrylic enamels, yeah, just a rainbow of colors. And this is what I use. It's not that critical because there are a lot of fine manufacturers of this. I did some children's bows for a fellow last Christmas. My wife did this wild paint job in these things because they had to be like these pirate bows, these wild bows. And she went so far as to use glow-in-the-dark paint and did like these patterns and things on this, aside from the colored patterns. And so when they were in the dark, they just glowed with these amazing, weird patterns. So that was a fun thing. So that is about it. Oh, a couple comments. It was interesting yesterday in Michigan, in these locales, you know, out of the range of the total eclipse, we had 74%. And so I took my telescope, my mighty Tasco, with the solar filter, and I made this bracket that held this cell phone, and I was snapping pictures of it. We had breaks in the clouds. It's like, wow. You know, I see sunspots, but I also see this rectangular shape that looks man-made, and it's like, holy cow. I actually took pictures at International Space Station, which was like way cool, and I wonder if I should use that as the thumbnail for this. Okay, enough of that. The next thing, the last thing is, you know how you follow down the rabbit hole on YouTube, you go from one thing to the next thing. And I have to admit, well, I'm not going to even talk about that. But anyway, Luna Lee. She plays this traditional Korean instrument that looks like a giant harp kind of a thing, but she does rock and roll covers. Check out Luna Lee, Sultans of Swing. Total BA. Well, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Make bows.